We actually met at a mutual friend's house. I called her up on a normal Saturday night, wanted to see what she was up to, and she said, hey, Shane's friend Matt is coming down from Vestal. We're all just gonna hang out.
I thought it was just hanging out with friends. I don't know if they had an alternative motive to set us up or not. I really don't.
We got to the bar and Shane went off and was being Shane at the bar and visiting with all the people that we know down there. And Matt was sitting at the bar all by himself. So I figured, I guess I'll go over and talk to him because he doesn't know anybody but Shane and Chrissy. And we ended up talking for like hours.
I don't know if she was with someone else at the time that we met. She might have been, might have not been. It didn't really matter to me though, as I'm sure she's told this to everybody.
He got up to go to the bathroom and decided he was gonna be all cool and slap my butt.
I thought I was being Rico Suave about it. She didn't think so at all.
And then he thought he would just keep doing it throughout the night. And at one point I was like, okay, that's really not okay. And he's like, yeah. And I told Shane, I was like, can you please tell your friend not to slap my butt anymore? But at this point, the drinks were flowing and Matt didn't really get the message. So he continued to slap my butt throughout the entire night.
The next day, I had stayed at my friend's house, who we went out with, and then she came over. We were watching a football game, and we got into it about whether or not there was ever a tie in the NFL. I didn't think so. She thought there was. She was right on that, and that's hard for me to admit.
So I asked Shane for his number. I'm like, let me tell him that I was right, because I have to prove that I was right. I sent him the message saying, hey, this is Shane's friend Amy. I was right. The last tie was like 5 years ago. And he goes, I know it's you. I got your number from Shane last night. Haha, we'll talk soon.
And I think she reamed him out for that, but it worked out, you know. We're here now, so.
Well, we talked off and on for like a good year and a half. Like we talked for a while, we went on a couple of dates, and then just kind of like went our own ways for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And then we talked again right when I was starting nursing school about 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago.
We, like Facebook messaging and stuff like that, just commenting on posts here and there. And then eventually I was like, hey, we should catch up, you know. That was my, you know, clever way of saying, hey, let's go out on a date. And she thought we were just catching up. And in my eyes, I'm like, we're going out on a date. This is awesome.
I was studying for a big chem test with a girl in the library, and he sent me a text message asking me if I wanted to go out and get dinner. I was so iffy because, well, the first impression wasn't the best, and I was so focused on school at that point. Like, that's what I wanted my focus to be on. And the girl that I was studying with, Michelle, was like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? She's like, you'll go out, you'll either have an awful time and get dinner, or you'll have a great time and who knows where life will lead. I thought, coming out of that night, I was like, oh, it was good to catch up with an old friend. I mean, I didn't think anything more of it. And then we just kept hanging out and going on more dates, and then probably a good month or two later, he was like, so I think it's safe to say we're dating. And I'm like, yeah, it's safe to say we're dating. It's been a couple of months. I think we can tolerate each other for a little longer.
We went out on dates, we would go to bars, we'd go to movies, you know, the regular dating stuff. So she had never met my son on purpose, in a sense, you know, for a while. And then I thought it was time, okay, they should meet and see how they get along. And those two really hit it off. And then I was like, okay, this is good. Me and her hit it off. Him and her hit it off. Seems to be pretty good, you know? So that's when I sort of knew it could be a long-term relationship.
He started talking more serious after our first fish festival because we had so much fun, and he told me I passed the fish test. I didn't know there was a fish test, but apparently there is a fish test.
So we're at the first concert, and we're hanging out, and it's like third song, and the song comes on called Sample in a Jar, and she was like, yes, and she starts singing along, and I looked and I was like, how do you know this song? She's like, I love this song. She's like, I have it on, you know, my iPod or whatever. I'm like, get out. I'm like, you don't know this song. And she started like singing all the lyrics, and I'm like, oh my God, she knows this song. So I'm like, I don't know. At that moment, I was like, this is amazing. We were meant to be together at this part. You know, she knew Fish. and I didn't have to force it on her.
He could always make me laugh, like no matter what. And even if not just laugh, like at least even put a smile on my face. Like even when my grandma died 2 years ago, like I even cried in my sleep. I was so sad. And somehow, like the next day, he got singing some song on the radio and he changed all the words to like match like our relationship. And I'm like just looking at him and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know, but you're smiling. And I didn't even realize that. I was like, yeah, I'm smiling.
Probably her optimism. She seems very optimistic, way more than me. And she always seems to be looking on the bright side of things. She deeply cares about people and thinks they're all innately good. I typically don't, but she does, and I think that's amazing, you know. I proposed on Christmas Day.
Apparently he had this whole thing sweet laid out, and me being me, because I always screw things up somehow.
So I asked her dad beforehand, and he was okay, he was fine with it. It was, I was sweating profusely, you know, like obviously super nervous. I think he was basically like, I'm surprised you waited this long. And so then I asked my son if that was okay, and he was helping me look at rings and stuff, which was cool. And he got really excited about it, and he said, now we can be a real family. And you know, at first I was like, well, what's not a real family, you know? But for him, that was it. The proposal was Christmas Day. I'd wrapped up the box, put it in the stocking, and I made sure she didn't look in the stocking. We did all the other presents, and then right at the end I was like, oh, I think Santa brought you a little something in the stocking. So she goes over and gets it.
So I reached down in the stocking and there was this little box, and I instantly like broke out in this crazy sweat, and I just started walking away and walking, like it was over in the kitchen. I just started walking over to the living room.
I felt like she was gonna turn around, so I get on one knee, again, sweating profusely, and then she just kept walking around the room trying to open this box.
And then all of a sudden I turn around and Matt's like behind me on one knee, like trying to follow me, scooching across the floor, because he had like gotten down and I didn't even notice, and I just started walking away from him, trying to figure out like, holy cow, this is happening.
I had this grand, you know, image in my head. She'd open it, I'd be like, oh, but a little bit different. Honey, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be myself. And I know that sort of sounds cheesy out of the context, but she'll get exactly what I mean.
So the past 6 years have been absolutely wonderful, and I hope the rest of our lives are just the same, and I love you.